Hello and welcome to FPL Malmo. My name is Andy. It's another quick turnaround this week. Game week 16 is almost upon us, so it's time for my team selection video. Let's not mess around and let's jump straight into it. So it's not a great score for game week 15, only 43 points, but it's a big green arrow in a very low scoring game week. First thing first, I said on my last video that I was looking at bringing in Luke Shaw. I pretty much decided that Cash needed to leave my team. Poor fixtures coming up. He was dropped and his returns haven't been that great anyway. I decided against Luke Shaw. I think it was really tough to decide what defender to bring in. No one's consistently keeping clean sheets. There's a few defenders that are getting attacking returns, but in Porro and Trippier, I think I've got the best two. But yeah, sure, I like the look of because of his potential attacking returns, but I decided to go with who I thought had the best fixtures over the next four, which was Craig Dawson from Wolves. Wolves haven't kept a clean sheet since I think about game week 3. But I don't think they're a terrible defence. They're a sort of mid-table defence, basically. And yeah, I really like the look of Burnley and then Nottingham Forest up next as a fixture. Craig Dawson also has a little bit of attacking threat from corners, so I went with him. Yeah, clean sheet, 8 points. He was the highest point scorer in my team. Sometimes I think you just get a bit lucky with FPL, but I will take it all the way. Sam Johnson in goal, he's been so disappointing. It was a misstep of a decision that they had like 4 good fixtures. He's picked up next to no points in that time, and now he's got like 3 tough fixtures until I'm looking at wildcarding, and I'm going to have to hold him through that. So let's hope he gets a penalty save or some miracle. Luckily, no goalkeeper's been performing consistently brilliantly, so you know it is what it is. Trippier was really poor in that Newcastle game, and Newcastle were poor. They're having to pick the same team every week because of injuries, and they just sound like they've run out of steam. Yeah, they need some players back fit. So many of their players look like great options that I think long term they're really good holds, but yeah, in the short term they're just it's going to be a struggle to get results. So whatever I get out of Trippier, I'm definitely going to hold him. We'll just have to see. Pedro Porro, another assist. He actually managed to get 2 bonus points for his 1 assist, even in a 2-1 defeat. He's on corners, set pieces. He's such an attacking threat for Spurs. It's kind of picking up where Maddison left off, really, in my team. Yeah, I think he's probably almost the number 1 defender to bring in at the moment if you don't own him. The midfield, Mbeumo, I'm not really happy with as a pick, but it got an assist, 5 points, so I can't really complain. I think there are better midfielders out there, but he is going to stay in my team until the wild card. Salah got the captaincy, 3 points from him, disappointing in an easy fixture. Saka has just been so consistent. He just seems to get a goal or a return every week. He's not really hauled at all this season, but yeah, just those. He just ticks along. If you don't own him, I think he's a great option to bring in as Arsenal's fixtures get a little easier over the next sort of half dozen. 2 points already discussed. Newcastle, but 2 from Gordon. It sounded like he missed a couple of chances as well. So that's a shame, but his returns have been so good, I can't complain too much. And Mbeumo, I will talk about more in detail in the next section of my video, but it sounds like he is going to be out for a few weeks at least. So he will be leaving my team. But I'm glad he got his goal before he went off, if nothing else. And then the City boys up top. City are off the boil at the moment. I was planning on selling both of them in the next couple of weeks and then probably wildcarding Haaland back in. But whether I keep Alvarez for the long term or not, I am not convinced. So, Mbeumo, I think because I'm wildcarding, probably in game week 19, it's a pretty easy decision for me to sell him. I think, to be honest, it's a pretty easy decision for most people to sell him because of that blank in game week 18. After that as well, you've then got him going off to AFCON. So long term, you're probably not going to want to have him anyway. If you were to sell him and bring him back in after the blank, you would only have him for a couple of game weeks before he goes to AFCON. And his easiest fixture is this week. They've got Sheffield United, and he's going to miss that game. So although the fixtures are decent long term, I don't see any real justification for holding him. So I wanted to have a little talk about the best replacements. It's worth saying as well that obviously this is for my team. Saka, I think, is a great option. If you don't own him, I think Anthony Gordon is definitely an option as well. I would only go for Gordon if you think you can reinvest that money somewhere else in your team, and it'd be worth it, because Newcastle are very unpredictable at the moment, and I think there are players around the same price point, potentially a little bit more, who are probably better. So to start off, I've got Raheem Sterling and Hee-Chan from Wolves. Sterling, I think, has been very overlooked, mainly because of Palmer. I would say, if money was no option, I still think Sterling might be a better pick than Palmer. Palmer's attacking returns have predominantly come from penalties. He is on a lot of set pieces generally, so he has a lot of kind of access to points, and he's been passing the eye test as Cole Palmer, but I'll talk about him more in detail later. Raheem Sterling, I still think, is the biggest attacking threat in that Chelsea team when you watch them play. Their fixtures are probably just about the best in the league, I'd say, over the next sort of 5 game weeks. They're also against teams that are kind of weaker defensively rather than attacking. I think like you could argue for Chelsea defenders, but I think I'd rather have Chelsea attackers. Yeah, Sterling doesn't have penalties. He doesn't have set pieces, but he's the open play threat really from Chelsea. Whereas I think Palmer can tick along. I think Sterling is the one who could really haul. He's had a couple already this season. Yeah, I think he's been a little bit overlooked because of Palmer, and I think he's a very decent option. Hee-Chan, sort of similar. It's worth mentioning that both Sterling and Palmer are currently on 4 yellow cards. So if you bring them in for the short term, you are risking them missing one of those games. Hee-Chan as well will go away. The Asian Cup, which is like Gameweek 21, so it's a little while away yet, but again, you're bringing him in for short term really, and with that one booking away from suspension, I don't know that it's worth it when he could potentially miss one of the next 5 before he goes anyway. That said, he's been exceptional this season. There's only a couple of game weeks where he hasn't returned, so he's a bit of a punt, but he's now up to 10% ownership, but it's still pretty differential. So I think if you're looking to take a punt, then he's a decent option as well. So these are the 2 that I'm really looking at. First of all, I'll start with Cole Palmer. I just mentioned then that I think Sterling is arguably a better pick than Palmer. I don't think you can ignore the price on it. Now, money doesn't make a huge difference to me, because I'm dead ending into a wildcard anyway, but and also I'm looking at selling Haaland at some point, so money is practically unlimited at that point. But Palmer does keep getting returns, even if they are mostly from penalties. Eye test wise, he does still look really threatening. I think he's pretty nailed in that Chelsea team. He missed the Brighton game, or at least didn't start it because of a little injury. Don't think it will affect him going forward. The reason that the money makes a difference to me is that if I went down to Cole Palmer, I would be able to go from Alvarez to Watkins next week. And then I would get rid of Haaland just before, the week of the blank, basically. If I don't go for Palmer and I go for somebody more expensive, then I would only be able to get Ollie Watkins in when I sell Haaland. And Watkins, although blank this week against City, I think he's probably the best attacking player in the game outside of Haaland, and I haven't owned him since about game week 4. And that's definitely been a mistake on my part, because he just keeps doing the business really. And that Villa team looks so good going forward at the moment, that I think you want the best player from their attack, and that is Ollie Watkins. Now, the reason I might not go for Cole Palmer is because of Jared Bowen. I had Bowen. I sold him when he got injured from Mbeumo. Mbeumo's got injured. Might just reverse that decision. I like the look of him I had him about 3 weeks ago, and I like the look of him over the next 6, and nothing has really changed on that. I think he's returned every single away game this season, and he's got Fulham away this week. Wolves and Man United at home, both of them. The United defence is so difficult to predict because they seem to either get clean sheets or concede 3. There's nothing in between. Wolves, I think, are a mid-table defence, but Bowen looks threatening. He's played through the middle a little bit recently. Kudos, I think, started the Tottenham game through the middle and Jarrod Bowen wide, and then they switched it. I think either or. He's such he's basically the fulcrum of that team. He's the best attacking player in a West Ham team that isn't a terrible attack. It's not bad. But when they get goals, Jarrod Bowen tends to be involved in them. He's the one that I really want, but whether that's worth getting Watkins a little bit later or not, I don't know. Weigh that up tonight. But yeah, Mbeumo has to be a sell for me, kind of regardless of your situation. Cole Palmer and Jarrod Bowen, I think, are the 2 best options to replace him. You could throw Gordon and Saka into the mix if you don't own them. So this is how the team is shaping up for next week. Obviously, Mbeumo will be leaving my team, and one of Bowen or Cole Palmer will be coming in. Just need to decide tonight on which one that's going to be. Looking through the team, it's a difficult game week, I would say. But I do have players against some of the weaker opposition, so it's not terrible. Partly because I've got so many players playing away, but Johnson in goal against Liverpool, not expecting anything out of that. If he can get 2 points, I'll take it. Dawson, Nottingham Forest, a Nottingham Forest team that's just been beaten 5-0 against Fulham. I kind of expect a reaction. I don't think they're a terrible team. I think they're just above the relegation zone team, but I think they'll be fine this season. I'm not expecting a clean sheet, but honestly, if you'd offered me 2 clean sheets over the 4, I would have absolutely snapped your hand off. I would be delighted if you can get anything for me in that game. Trippier against Tottenham, he's always in the mix for attacking returns. I don't fancy a clean sheet in that either. Pedro Porro, copy and paste. I don't expect a clean sheet, but I think he's got 3 assists in the last 4. Said it before. If you don't own him, he's probably the best defensive asset. I think, pound for pound in the game at the moment. Midfield, I'd say Mbeumo I've not been sold on recently, and Brighton are so inconsistent, but they're playing a Burnley team that has looked really poor this season, really poor. They were poor against Wolves. I watched some of that game, and Wolves weren't spectacular at all. Burnley just didn't really have anything about them, which is a shame, but I fancy some attacking returns for Mbeumo in that one. Salah against Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace have been conceding goals recently, as I'm very aware of as a Johnston owner. I like some. I like the chances of Salah returning that one. Saka against Villa is tough, but if anyone's going to get anything out of that Arsenal team, I'd put money on it being Saka. Gordon against Tottenham is also tough. That one would be a bonus. And then up front, Alvarez and Haaland against Luton. I've said it before, Luton are 2 different teams. Away from home, just target Luton when they're playing away. And at home, they've pushed Arsenal and Liverpool really close. I mean, they were so unfortunate to lose that game against Arsenal. But yeah, they're not a bad team at home, but it doesn't mean that you can't score goals against them. I don't know if City need a reaction, but there's certainly something not quite clicking at the moment. I get the feeling that it might be time for Pep to pull another magic, like tactical innovation out, and that City might start turning it around. Alvarez has looked all right in patches recently, but in others just hasn't been involved in games, and Haaland has had chances that he's not taken. I mean, he had in the 2 shots that City had, which happened back to back in the Villa game, Haaland could have scored both, and there weren't terrible attempts. It's good saves by Martinez, but Haaland at his best, I think, just finishes those. So he's going to be our captain. I'm not expecting a big green arrow this week. I don't think my team looks amazing. I think that it's one where if I just kind of maintain rank, I will be absolutely delighted with it. So that's it for my team selection video ahead of game week 16. If you've enjoyed it, then please subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, and give the video a like. Always appreciate that. And thanks for watching. I'll see you on another video.